Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, explosive. There's no other way to put it. Explosive bombshell stories now being broken by the New York Post. And in particular, I want to give a huge hat tip to me, really one of the premier columnists in the country, Miranda Devine, from the New York Post. Now, listen to this. According to Miranda Devine and about a group of maybe 6 reporters at the New York Post, they now have several whistleblowers, private investigators, and key sources that have now come out and confirmed that the FBI and the Secret Service have been lying. They lied to us, the public. Even more disgusting, they actually lied to President Trump. President Trump now, it's been months, is not satisfied with the answers that both the FBI and the Secret Service have been giving him about Thomas Crooks, the assassin who tried to, or the would-be assassin, who tried to kill and murder Donald Trump on that fateful day, July 13, 2024, on the fields of Butler, Pennsylvania. And there is now obviously a cover-up going on. There is no question about it. Everything they have told us has either been a lie, a half-truth, or an omission. And as Miranda Devine and these several explosive New York Post articles now reveal, the congressional report that was issued about the assassination attempt in Butler was full of omissions and out falsehoods and lies. So we have the government lying, we have Congress lying, we have the FBI lying, we have the Secret Service lying. What they have told us again and again is that we have no idea who Thomas Crooks was. 20 years old, went up on the rooftop with an AR-15 style rifle, apparently undetected by anyone in the Secret Service, and then fired off 8 shots at President Trump. One just barely missing his head and hitting his ear. Had Trump not moved at the last possible millisecond, that bullet would have hit him right in the brain and he would have been dead, a la John F. Kennedy, okay, a la JFK. But Corey Comparator is dead, 50 years old, a firefighter. He died on that fateful day. 2 others were badly, critically wounded on that fateful day. And yet, we still have no plausible, real answers from the FBI or the Secret Service. According to them, they have officially said they have no idea why Thomas Crooks did what he did. They can't explain his motivation. They don't know what his ideology was. They have no idea how he was able to pull this off. They claim that he had no online presence whatsoever, that they just can't make out what he was doing on social media. Hence, it's all gone down a black hole. They know nothing, they say nothing, they hear nothing, and they expect us to believe it was all nothing. Well, Trump is not happy, and now we know for sure that they have been caught in an official cover-up and engaging in a pack of lies. Because here is now what has come out. And I think I know what they're trying to cover up. But let me lay out all the evidence, and then I want you to judge Kuhner country. 617-266-6868 if you want to get on the line and be part of the show. Okay, so according now to what Miranda Devine and other New York Post investigative reporters have now found out, Thomas Crooks had, in fact, an extensive online presence. He was on YouTube frequently. He was on many other websites. The key website is a website called DeviantArt. That is a prominent hub for people who are obsessed with furries. By the way, this is eerily similar to Tyler Robinson, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, and his lover. So they were involved in the furry transgender community as well. Now, apparently what they found is that Thomas Crooks had an obsession with furries and furry-like characters. Furries, for those of you that don't know, are people who are obsessed with sort of cats, dogs, these kinds of animals. They like to dress up as them or watch pornographic video games with furry characters. It all usually comes with a huge sexual fetish. Now, Crooks apparently was big into the furry community. He liked to dress up as a furry. He liked to watch other people in furries. The other thing that's a bit odd is he was into female bodybuilders. I mean, women that were massive. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger, but a female. But with a male head on the, with a female head, forgive me, a male bodybuilder with a female head on the body. So a female face, long hair, lipstick, the whole bit, but on this body of like an Arnold Schwarzenegger type. So he had this obsession with female or highly muscular female bodybuilders as well as furries. And in particular, there is shot after shot, video after video of a thin, scrawny white guy, late teens, early 20s, which is him or was him, with a huge, I'm talking 6'5", 6'6", I guess woman, but it appears to have the body of a man, dressed in a bikini with a female head. So an extremely muscular, massive, large woman, female bodybuilder type. He was obsessed with this. Furthermore, he went by the pronouns they or them. He kept referring to himself as a they or a them. In 2019, he was originally pro-Trump. You see messages about him defending Trump, liking Trump, supporting Trump. But then in 2020, he did a complete ideological backflip. He then went rabidly, and I mean rabidly, anti-Trump. He blamed him for the COVID pandemic, which really set him off. He started to attack Trump as a racist. He attacked Trump as a fascist, as a white supremacist. He attacked his followers, supporters, saying they were like a cult. And in 2019, 2020, you can see the evolution where he becomes utterly obsessed with violence, with gore, with killing, with mass violence, where he talks about the need for political assassinations. And he becomes obsessed with notorious political assassins like Lee Harvey Oswald. He starts to do a lot of research and get information on Lee Harvey Oswald, on his assassin, Jack Ruby, and then he begins to call himself a terrorist, saying that the only way to bring down the government, the only way to bring about true lasting change and revolutionary reform is if you, quote, engage in terrorist-style attacks on the government, plant bombs in essential buildings, or murder prominent politicians or military leaders. And what you also see is he starts to get involved in artwork where people's heads are being chopped off, where people are being shot repeatedly. As I said, it's a descent into sheer violence, nihilism, and gore. And repeatedly, he starts saying Trump supporters need to be massacred. We need to kill more people. People need to die. All of the Trump supporters need to be murdered. Now, the question that needs to be asked is, with all of this violent online activity, with him calling for the death of Trump repeatedly, the death of Trump's supporters repeatedly. Where was the FBI? How come nobody paid him a visit? In fact, there are many within the FBI who are now leaking, saying they did pay him a visit, but that it was deemed he wasn't a credible threat. And so now they're trying to sweep this under the rug, because obviously somebody somewhere made a fundamental fatal miscalculation. Because Corey Comparator is dead. Remember, there's one person dead. And Trump was almost killed on that fateful day. But what is now clear is that he did have an online presence. He did fantasize about murdering Trump. He was a rabid anti-Trumper. We know he had a political motive. And yet all of this is being deliberately suppressed. 617-266-6868. Okay. Several explosive reports from the New York Post, led by Miranda Devine, but there's about 6 other reporters as well. These are now whistleblowers from inside the Secret Service, the FBI, as well as other sources. And clearly, there's no question we have been lied to. That now there is beyond a shadow of a doubt. So when Christopher Wray testified under oath, the then FBI director, that Thomas Crooks, the attempted assassin, had no ideology, no known ideology as to why he would try to kill President Trump, that was a lie, a blatant lie. When they said that he had no online presence whatsoever, that's a lie. When he said that they had no extremist ideology, that's a lie. So they have been caught lying again and again and again. In fact, there are dozens and dozens of messages by Crooks. This is now by January to August, September 2020, where he becomes a rabid anti-Trumper, where he actually starts calling for Trump to be assassinated and killed, saying he is a racist, he is a white supremacist. He further says he's getting people killed because of his, what Crooks says is a slow response to COVID, and that somebody needs to take Trump out. He also says that Trump supporters are a danger to the country, that we're like a cult who just blindly follow Donald Trump. And we're one of the main reasons why people are dying because of COVID. And throughout all of this, you clearly see this is a man who identifies as being transgender. His pronouns are they and them. He becomes obsessed with being a furry and going on sites where there are furry characters, pornographic characters. And also, as I said earlier, it's very bizarre, but he's really into super muscular women, or even men, the bodies of men. I guess you can do it through AI or whatever, where you have the bodies of very muscular bodybuilders, men, but they put a head of a woman on it. And in particular, of a scrawny white guy, which is him, constantly looking up to, frolicking with a super muscular female bodybuilder. The whole thing is weird, but what gets very sick is the image after image after image of heads being split wide open, of people being gunned down and shot. This descent into gore, into violence, into mass violence. Videos of him on YouTube. This is what's incredible. Of him holding up a firearm and saying, this is what needs to happen to MAGA. This is what needs to happen to Trump. And it's an actual gun, and he's pretending that he's shooting it. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to open it up to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. 617-266-6868. Even now, under Kash Patel, they are refusing to release any information whatsoever about Thomas Crooks, about his background, about what he was doing online, about his ideology, or about his motives. In fact, Republican Wisconsin Senator has sent, Ron Johnson has sent subpoena after subpoena after subpoena saying we are being lied to. The official narrative is clearly false. We want to know who Thomas Crooks was. Was he a transgender? Was he a furry? Is this another Tyler Robinson and his so-called boyfriend, the assassin of Charlie Kirk? Are you trying to cover up for the fact that here we have another attempted assassination attempt, a high-profile assassination attempt committed by a deranged transgender individual? Transgendered individuals are committing many assassinations. It's been now 5-6 years. The number keeps growing and growing and growing, whether it's mass shootings or, one-offs where they're just killing prominent people or trying to kill prominent people. So is that what this is about? Is it because this was by someone who clearly was motivated by his hatred for Donald Trump and everything he stood for? In other words, a politically motivated assassination attempt. Is that what you're trying to cover up? Now, President Trump is getting increasingly angry. I don't blame him. He is questioning the official narrative. He says none of it makes sense. He says I'm being lied to. I want answers to basic questions. Answers that the Secret Service and the FBI refuse to give him and refuse to give to the public. Now, what the speculation is, and it's only speculation because everything is being obstructed and stonewalled. So it's still in the dark and in the shadows. But whistleblowers are starting to come out saying, if you do these kinds of threats again and again and again on social media site after social media site after social media site, it is almost impossible that someone from the Secret Service did not investigate or pay Thomas Crooks a visit. Yet there's no record of that. Why? Is it because they didn't care? Is it because they wanted this to happen? Is it because since the target was Trump, they decided to let it go? Is it the fact that they were just completely incompetent and he fell through the cracks and they're trying to cover their rear ends? We need to know the answers to these questions because, my friends, what is now clear is that Ray lied to us. Kash Patel has been lying to us. Congress lied to us. We know the motive. We know why he did it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quickly. This is, now, by the way, Congress has admitted this. They don't want you to know this. The FBI, when Ray officially testified under oath, as did his deputy, they completely omitted this part. And the New York Post, to their credit, has tracked it down. So, in August 2020, Thomas Crooks now is explicitly discussing on YouTube, okay, this is on YouTube where it's publicly available, where he says now he's a terrorist and that you have to fight the government using terrorism-style tactics. He says now the only way to overthrow Trump, the only way to overthrow this entire regime, he says, you've got to start using bombs and you've got to start using guns. So here's what he writes, quote, the only way to fight the government, i.e. Trump, is with terrorism-style attacks. Sneak a bomb into an essential building and set it off before anyone sees you. Track down any important people / politicians / military leaders, etc., and try to assassinate them. He then even admits that if you do go down this road, and he's obviously going down this road, it's probably going to lead to your death. But he says it's worth it. He's willing to be a Lee Harvey Oswald. He's willing to be like one of the great assassins in history because he'll go down as a great martyr. So he then writes, quote, this is again on YouTube, publicly available, quote, any sort of head-to-head fight is suicide. And even ambush/surprise attacks likely aren't going to end well, meaning you're going to die. Now, the other part that's very disturbing on top of all of this is Senator Ron Johnson says that he's now asked repeatedly, can you please share with us, look, it's been over a year. What is it now, 16 months since the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. What are you guys hiding? Why is this all hush-hush? How come you refuse to release any information? And so Senator Johnson says, look, can you please release the security camera footage? The camera footage that was there in Butler on July 13th, 2024. We want to see what was the breakdown in security. Did Thomas Crooks have any assistance or help? Was there somebody within the Secret Service who was a mole, who was in on it? In other words, we want basic information to be released at least to Congress at a bare minimum, if not to the public. Kash Patel is slamming the door. No. Dan Bongino is slamming the door. No. Why? Why? Even Ron Johnson, Senator Johnson, who, by the way, is a big Trump supporter. You know, it's not like this is a Democrat going on some fishing expedition. Even Johnson says, this is bizarre. I don't understand this. We just want answers, but they don't want us to know the answers. So what are they hiding? Now, let me give you my take, and then I want to open it up to you. 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. I think number one, and this is now clear as day, they're covering up the fact that Thomas Crooks was transgendered. There's no question now. This was another assassination attempt. And remember, Corey Comparator died. Now, he wasn't the target of the assassination, but one man was dead. A family man was killed. Two others were very critically wounded. And we came within a millimeter of President Trump being murdered, and God knows, maybe even a civil war. Who knows what that would have sparked had Trump been killed on that day in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I think because of political correctness, because of DEI, because of fear that there could be a backlash against the LGBTQ plus community, they are deliberately trying to sweep under the rug to bury the fact that this guy kept using they, them pronouns for years and years and years on social media. That this man was clearly, whatever, a part of the, violent transgender community. Just like Tyler Robinson, the Charlie Kirk assassin. Just like Tyler Robinson's lover. So they're trying to hide that. I think there's no question. Furthermore, I think what they're also trying to hide, because remember, they kept downplaying the ideological motivations for the assassination attempt. We don't know why he did it. This wasn't because he hated Trump. Well, obviously he hated Trump. And obviously he hated MAGA. So this was a political assassination attempt. This was another person on the radical left, radicalized by the media, to hate Trump, under COVID especially, to hate Trump supporters, and this guy acted. So again, they're trying to cover up left-wing political terrorism and this assassination culture that the left has adopted. I think there's no question. I think furthermore, to me, there's no way the Secret Service wasn't aware of this guy. We're not talking about one comment here, one comment there. Well, people can miss it. We're talking now, at least I'm going by the New York Post, 737 times just on YouTube alone, where he talked about the need to murder or assassinate Trump or murder or assassinate Trump supporters. Mass killings, mass violence, over and over and over and over again. No, they knew, they paid him a visit. Something happened during that visit. They don't want us to know about it. So either they made a fundamental mistake or they realized it, some crazy person, and said, leave him alone. We don't know because they're hiding the files. Now, to me, this goes to the heart of the issue. Why are you hiding? I know they're voting on the Epstein files today, and it's going to be almost unanimous, and they're going to finally release the files. Trump said yesterday, by the way, he's going to sign the bill to release the files completely. But what about now the Thomas Crooks files? How come nobody outside of a few members of Congress? Don't we deserve to know why Thomas Crooks tried to kill Donald Trump? Don't we deserve to know what his actual motivations were? And don't we actually deserve to know if there was help on the inside, whether it was the FBI or the Secret Service? Because here's the other elephant in the room. Remember, half an hour before the assassination attempt, people in the crowd already spotted Thomas Crooks with his AR-15. And they were yelling, "Sniper, sniper, sniper." And yet nobody acted. Nobody did a thing. And this guy goes up a ladder, crawls on top of a roof, and nobody sees him? Or no, to be more accurate, nobody does anything to stop him, but the people in the crowd are saying, "Sniper on the roof, sniper on the roof, shooter on the roof, shooter on the roof." How does he get off 8 shots? That's the other thing. That's the other question Senator Ron Johnson is asking. Why was the Secret Service so freaking slow? 8 shots. Boom, 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 boom. And then they finally take him out? That's an unbelievably slow, delayed reaction time. Now, why did Christopher Wray, under oath, lie? He told Congress, everybody's forgotten this now. He said the bullet that hit Trump's ear was not a direct hit, that it was shrapnel that bounced off the podium. In other words, trying to downplay the seriousness of what had happened to Trump. Oh, no. He wasn't shot in the ear. No. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Let me just read just a little bit from Miranda Devine's really superb column where she lays out now all of the lies by the FBI, including Kash Patel. It's not just Christopher Wray and his deputy. It's Kash Patel. It's the Secret Service. It's the entire government. So she writes that Trump and those close to him are skeptical about the official story. They don't believe what the FBI is telling them about Thomas Crooks. They don't believe it. And she concludes by saying this: it is hard to believe the FBI and or Secret Service missed Crooks. The question is, what did they do about him? And so I think that's the $64,000 question. There's no way, with the level of violent rhetoric that he was engaged in. By the way, they got him on 15 different platforms. Now, again, just to show you the depths of the lies, they said that he had no online presence whatsoever. Literally, that's the official report from Congress when they came out with their, conclusions about the attempted assassination in Butler. And the FBI, what they told the public was that he had no online presence whatsoever. Well, now it turns out not only did he have online presence, he was on 15 different social media sites. 15. thousands and thousands of messages. So, no, he would have been flagged. You keep calling for people to be murdered and taking pictures of yourself with an actual gun and saying, this is what I want to do to Trump, or this is what I want to do to Trump supporters. Bang, 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 bang. No, you're going to get flagged by somebody somehow, somewhere. So the question is, what did they do when they were made aware of him? Now, look, the speculation. The speculation, it's all over social media, that this is exactly the kind of mentally disturbed person that can be easily groomed or persuaded or manipulated into becoming a would-be assassin. And clearly, the more you read about Thomas Crooks, the more, frankly, you see of his video clips, his stuff that he was saying and doing online, you're like, this guy was, not playing with a full deck. It's pretty obvious. So, the question is, what exactly are they covering up? Now, let me tell you my fear. My fear is that this was an inside job. That Thomas Crooks was fundamentally a patsy. That they manipulated this guy. That they knew which buttons to press. Clearly, this guy was into the furry community. This guy was into some pretty sick sexual stuff. He was also deeply disturbed. He's transgendered. He's going on all these crazy websites. He was on DeviantArt. This, by the way, is years before he actually pulls the trigger in Butler. He's doing these sick drawings of people, heads being cut off, heads being cut open, people being shot over and over and over again. And he's taking glee in it. He loves it. He can't get enough of it. So clearly a guy like him is very easy to mold and push and massage into saying, hey, don't just play a terrorist online. Why don't you actually be a terrorist and, do the world a favor and take out Donald Trump? That's my suspicion. And my suspicion is that it would bring down the FBI, bring down the Secret Service, and that's why they're stonewalling this. Because, I could read to you the reports again about, Senator Ron Johnson saying, I asked for forensic reports, I'm denied. I asked for security camera footage, I'm denied. I asked for the most basic information, I'm denied. He goes, I'm being stonewalled, and this is now Trump's FBI. This is all under Kash Patel. This is all under Dan Bongino. So clearly they're trying to protect the institution of the FBI. What are they protecting? We need to know the truth once and for all. What happened in Butler? Who was Thomas Crooks? And was this a politically motivated assassination attempt? I think the answer is obvious, but the American people deserve to know the answers. Yes, no, agree, disagree. Let me ask all of you. Do you think Butler was an inside job? And what is the FBI and the Secret Service hiding? 617-266-6868. Let's go to Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent. He calls from the Pittsburgh area. Dave in Pennsylvania. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing, buddy? I'm still recovering from Philly last week. My voice is coming back.
Well, you had a big party, a 250th birthday, anniversary of the Marines. So you had a right to celebrate, my friend. Dave,
yes,
what do you make of all this?
As you remember, not making about me, I called you that very day from Route 8 in Butler. I wasn't at the rally, but I was at the swimming pool that day, if you recall. And, Jeff, you stole my thunder, buddy, but that's okay. This has got the markings of a patsy, Jeff. And, Jeff, I think the FBI, you alluded to the fact that they visited him over there in Bethel Park, where he's from, I believe, right, where they said to shoot Bethel Park, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, so get this. I did a little bit of research on Thomas Crooks myself. Not only was he a rabid anti-Trumper and he was pro-Trump before, his family became very, very closer to the Allegheny Democratic Committee, the Allegheny County Democratic Committee. So there's some shadows lurking there too, Jeff. And excuse me, and then not only the FBI visit, that could have been like a pre-visit, like Oswald was visited by the FBI many times before the JFK assassination. And I think he was just a patsy, and I still believe to this day Oswald didn't do the shooting. But that's an argument for another day, Jeff. But no, Crooks is a very shady character, plus those offshore accounts you've heard about.
Well, Dave, I'm happy you mentioned that, because this is another thing. So much of this just doesn't add up. It really doesn't. So, and this is Miranda Devine, okay? This is not me, but she makes a very good point. And she said, by the way, Trump is asking these very same questions in the Oval Office. How is it that you have Crooks and his parents who are poor? Okay, as you put it, they're outside of the Pittsburgh area, so they're near your neck of the woods, Dave. Now, the parents are impoverished. In fact, they're so impoverished that they had to beg for money from their neighbors just to pay for Thomas Crooks' funeral. They couldn't pay for the funeral of their own son. But to try to defend his reputation, they were able to hire one of the most expensive white shoe law firms. I don't know if you know them, Dave. Apparently they're big in Pittsburgh. Quinn Logue. So apparently, like, if you have money to get Quinn Logue, I mean, what are they, $1,000 an hour or something? They're one of the biggest law firms, the most expensive, the most high-profile law firms, white shoe law firm in all of Pittsburgh. So who funded that? It certainly wasn't the parents. They don't have the money. So something, he bought a lot of ammo. He bought a lot of weapons. He didn't have that kind of money. His parents didn't have that kind of money. Who bought him all of that equipment? So there are so many questions here, and you mentioned offshore accounts. Somebody was feeding him money. The question is who? Why isn't the FBI telling us? Why isn't the Secret Service telling us? It's been 16 months now. I mean, they should at least have some answers. Dave, am I wrong?
I'm going to quote you, my friend. You're 1,000, and I'll say infinitely correct. Like, you can use 1,000, I'll use infinitely. Because, Jeff, another thing that stings to high heaven, too, is the very fact that they killed him to silence him, kind of like what the real, not Jack Ruby, what Jacob Rubenstein did to Lee Harvey Oswald. And if you remember, Jacob Rubenstein, a.k.a. Jack Ruby, ran the Carousel Club for the mob in Dallas. So I think if they didn't kill Crooks, he was going to squeal like a chicken.
That's a very good point. That's an excellent point. Dave, as always, thank you very much for that call. Really good call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Look, I know I mentioned it earlier, but it begs to be said again. It begs to be repeated again. You have Secret Service agents everywhere. Everywhere. This guy gets off 8 shots. 8. Not 2, not 3, 8. Ugh. Look, I think somebody wanted him dead. You want my honest opinion? I think people in the Secret Service or the FBI, whatever, wanted him dead. They saw that he was leading in the polls. By then, it was obvious Joe Biden was finished. Kamala now was going to replace him, or had just replaced him on the ticket. It looked like Trump now was going to run away with the election. And basically, we've got one chance left to stop him, take him out. And then, even then, when that didn't work, you remember there was a second assassination attempt in Florida at the golf club, where again, the shooter got off multiple shots before he was finally taken down. And look, the reason why it's not, we're not revisiting history is I believe that there is still clearly a threat on the president's life. And this is not even speculation. You saw what they did. They had a hunting stand found, at Palm Beach, where Air Force One will land when he goes to Mar-a-Lago. And it was in perfect eyesight of where the president's plane lands in Palm Beach. And it was just sitting there for somebody to lay a gun wait for Trump to go down the steps, boom, 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 he's dead. I don't think they want him to serve out his term. I think they're looking to take him out as soon as they can. And I think what's going on as well, I think this is so obvious now. I mean, it's almost irrefutable. There's something about the transgender community, the furry community, because, again, Tyler Robinson was into furries. His lover was into furries. I can do other shooters as well. I'm just using the Charlie Kirk assassin as the closest analogy. But, you know, this guy, Thomas Crooks, transgendered and heavily involved in the furry community. So you're dealing with people who are mentally unstable, who have all kinds of personal issues to deal with, who I think can be very easily influenced, manipulated, pressured, however term you want to use, or recruited to become a patsy or a shooter. And I think they're trying to downplay the transgender furry aspect of both the Charlie Kirk assassin and now the would-be Trump assassin. I think there's no question. That's the subculture that they're trying to tap into. And they're going to keep tapping into it again and again and again. And that's the subculture that they don't want the public to know about, that are directly involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk, and B, the attempted murder of Donald Trump. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Bruce? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Bruce. Let's go to Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
Jeff, I got a good one for you. I would terminate every one of those FBI agents that was there. You know why? Because they could be on a take. Remember Whitey Bulger? He had 8 of them working for him. They were on his payroll, and one of them got promoted, Morris, to where he was training FBI agents. I forgot what state. I think it might have been Carolina or Virginia. That's how the FBI was run then also. Imagine that, Jeff. These guys should be terminated. If you terminate them and tell them no pay, no back pay, no, retirement pay, they'll go against the FBI. They'll come out and rat out guys. They'll tell you what happened. Am I right, Jeff?
Oh, you're completely right. Jimmy, the question I have for you is this. No, look, there's a long history of corruption in the FBI where they cover their rear ends. They're involved in all kinds of sordid activities, illegal activities. There's no question. Let me ask you this, though, Jimmy. We now have Kash Patel. He's the FBI director. We now have Dan Bongino. He's the deputy FBI director. So Trump has his, and I'm putting this in air quotes, his people. What are they covering up? I thought they were loyal to the president. So my question to you, Jimmy, is, no, I get the previous FBIs, but now Trump vowed to clean up the FBI, especially after what James Comey did to him, and Christopher Wray as well. So we've got new leadership, new blood. Why are they covering up, Jimmy? This is the $64,000 question. What say you?
I think somebody's paying them off. Jeff, everybody in Europe is asking me, my relatives in Australia and England and Poland, why aren't we going after Soros? He's the money man. You were talking about this guy that tried to assassinate him, this kid in Pennsylvania. Follow the money. I bet you it goes back to Soros.
Jimmy, I agree with you. I think there's no question. Look, they've put a hit on him. They've tried to take him out twice. I don't believe they're going to stop. I think they're going to keep going and going and going. And that's why we need to have answers, because Trump needs to know, who can I trust and who can't I trust? Who in the Secret Service is compromised? Who isn't? Who in the FBI is compromised? Who isn't? Because these are the people that have his back, or they're supposed to have his back. And clearly in Butler, they did not have his back. Jimmy, thank you very much for that call. All right, I think we reconnected with Bruce in Woburn. Bruce, thanks for holding, and as always, welcome. Oh, Crooks was a big moonbat, Bruce. Big moonbat. He was a howler, all right. Bruce, what do you make of all this?
I blame the media for not telling the truth right from the get-go on any of this, especially Butler, the transy that tried to kill the president, and then the transy that killed Charlie Kirk. They had him painted a different color. And it's just the media is so corrupt. It's just like the president says, fake news, fake news, fake news. If they tell lies enough, Jeff, people just overlook the real deal.
Bruce, I agree with you. I think you're 1,000% correct. But let me just ask you this question, just to play devil's advocate. Okay, so it gets, the facts are the facts, and the media reports the facts, and the FBI reports the facts that, yeah, Tyler Robinson was a trans furry, just like his lover. That's what they were into. Thomas Crooks was a transgendered furry. That's what he was into. What's the hurt? What's the damage? Like, in other words, what are they so afraid of? That was their sexual fetish. That was their thing. So why not just admit it? And that these subcultures tend to be very violent. You go to, apparently, I don't go there, but you read about what's in deviant art. That was, by the way, that was also what Tyler Robinson was involved in. That site as well, deviant art, where it's these furries, transgender furries, but they're playing extremely violent video games, pornographic video games, but with a level of gore and blood that's just, it's shocking. It's sickening, really. It's pathological. So, but that's where they hang out. Why not just report the truth? Like, what are they afraid of? What, that people are going to go on a rampage against furries? What, that people are going to have a backlash against the transgendered community? Like, why are they hiding this seminal fact? What are they so afraid of? What's your theory, Bruce?
Yeah.
Bruce?
Yeah.
Bruce, we lost you. Look, let me throw it out there for all of you. Why are they refusing? Why are they covering up the fact that these were trans furries? Transgendered furries? Like, what are they so afraid of? Like, what? This is going to lead to discrimination against transgendered furry people? Is that what they're worried about? That it's going to, target the people in the LGBTQ plus community? So we have to lie and cover things up and not give the real motives for why Charlie Kirk was killed and why they wanted, why Crooks wanted to kill Trump? It just, the FBI is supposed to be the premier law enforcement agency in the country. Their job is the facts and only the facts. That's supposed to be their job. Instead, they become a political organization. And so I don't know if it's just political correctness or if there's something even more evil and nefarious going on. But there's clearly some skullduggery. There's no question. And the question now is, how deep does the rot go? Jerry on the Cape. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome. Comrade, how are you, my friend?
Better than these people. Jeff, I want you to think about something for a minute, okay? Do you notice how they're trying to lead us down the primrose path?
Okay, how do you mean, Jerry?
Jeff, all different information that they're spreading around, like the furry thing. They did the same thing with the young guy that killed Charlie Kirk and his lover. Jeff, it's worse than that, because I know you're going to think this is crazy, but...
Okay, Jerry, do me a favor. Hang on. I'm up against a hard break, so we're going to tease now Jerry is going to drop what he believes is a truth bomb. Okay, I'm going to go right back to Jerry on the Cape. But just, I want to address something. I'm getting really flooded now with emails, text messages, obviously, on Messenger. Let me just read one from Scott, but I'm getting so many of them. Jeff, you are being censored on Heat streaming. Every time you start talking about transgender shooters, a commercial comes on. It has happened multiple times in the last 15 minutes. You are hitting the liberal hotspot. Many of you are complaining that every time I mention furries or transgender or whatever in discussing Thomas Crooks or the Tyler Robinson and his lover, his transgender lover, the assassin of Charlie Kirk, you get some kind of an ad or something comes on. Something is happening. They're trying to censor. They're afraid of the truth. It's not going to work. I'm telling you, it's not going to work. So we're just going to continue to plow through this entire show. And if need be, I'll do a podcast afterwards. I'll go on X. I'll do whatever I have to do, but we're going to get the truth out to you, Kuhner country. I promise. So just be aware. They're trying to censor us, but it's not going to work. And please stay patient. Eventually, they're going to stop. Eventually, they're going to realize this is pointless. Okay, let's go right back to Jerry on the Cape. Jerry, you're saying it's even worse than what we found out, that there's something, you don't even want to go there, but there's something that needs to be said about Thomas Crooks, the attempted assassination on Trump, and of course the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Please, your truth bomb is coming. Drop it, my friend.
And Ruth, the shooter down in Florida. You remember him?
Yes.
He's up on trial now. But Jeff, he spent time in the Ukraine too. He's got in both of them. Matthew Crooks and what's his name? Ryan Ruth. They both had burner phones. The service provider was in the Ukraine, Jeff. And if you remember, when President Trump was on the campaign trail, he mentioned numerous times to the media when they kept asking him about the war between the Ukraine and Russia, he said there'd be no need for funding of the Ukraine because he was going to end the war. That's what the Ukraine was afraid of. And I think they joined forces with the deep state within the Secret Service and the FBI. I think it was a combination deal where they worked in unison.
That's
Jeff,
interesting. So you think that maybe this wasn't just the deep state. You think maybe there was a foreign power involved, i.e. Ukraine, because they were petrified that Trump was going to, cut off all of the funding, turn off the spigot. And without the American money coming in and American arms, Zelensky is finished, the Ukrainians are done, and Russia wins the war, correct?
Yes. And worse than that, Jeff, think about this. How many times did Charlie Kirk post on X that the war needed to end between the Ukraine and Russia and that we should no longer be funding them? He did it at least 3 times, Jeff. So I think this is a lot deeper down the rabbit hole than we all know. I know it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but stranger things have happened that have been called conspiracy theories before, haven't they?
Jerry, you follow the deep state more than almost anybody. Kash Patel, Dan Bongino. I understand Christopher Wray, he was a hack. Comey was an assassin, a deep state assassin. But Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, why are they stonewalling? Why are they covering all of this up? I mean, aren't they supposed to be, at least in theory, loyal to Trump? So Trump is getting frustrated with them, saying they're not even giving me straight answers. So what are they hiding? I'm just curious. What's your theory, Jerry?
Honestly, I'm going to come right out and say it. I think they're being threatened. And I think they're being led in a certain direction where they can do certain things like the fentanyl. Remember how Kash Patel came on a couple days ago and mentioned that he had a big fentanyl bust? And all the drugs and everything, they don't care about that right now. They're interested, the deep state is interested in covering their tracks in many directions. And there's certain things that are the third rail for both Dan Bongino and Kash Patel that they can't go near. They've already been warned.
Interesting. Jerry, as always, stimulating, fascinating call. Thank you for that call, comrade. Thomas in Florida. Thanks for holding, Thomas, and welcome.
Hello?
Thomas, hi, you're on the air. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, somebody's been interfering with our stream down here. So.
Oh, I know. It's happening everywhere. They're trying to censor me. It's obviously this topic is, I'm getting too close to the mark. So yeah, that's what's going on. They've done it in the past. So Thomas, please just power through. Go ahead, my friend.
The biggest thing is they cut our power down here.
Oh, really?
Sure I don't to get their stream through at a seminal time when a seminal point was being made. They cut the power in my house.
That's incredible. Well, what it just shows, Thomas, is, look, that's the extent now of the cover-up. That's what they fear. And look, I think the more we dig into this, the more we're going to find out just how compromised the FBI and the Secret Service are. And I've been telling President Trump and his people now for God knows how long, watch your back. Because what happened in Butler is going to happen again. It's no longer a question of if, it's a question of when. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, massive cover-up now at the FBI and the Secret Service. Several bombshell reports led by Miranda Devine over at the New York Post, but it wasn't just her. There's about 6 investigative reporters who now have whistleblowers within the Federal Bureau of Investigation, including the U.S. Secret Service as well, in which they say that Thomas Crooks clearly had a motivation. He hated Trump. He was a man of the left. That's why he wanted to try to murder him and assassinate him. He also was transgendered. He was deeply sexually confused. He was involved in the online furry community, in fact, quite extensively. And that the FBI and the Secret Service knew all of this, and they are deliberately trying to cover it up, among many other things. And so my question to you, very simply, will we ever know the full truth about what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania? And was Crooks a patsy? Was this an inside job by someone within the FBI or the Secret Service, the deep state, to take Trump out? My fear, yes. I think increasingly now as time goes on, it was clearly a deep state operation. Trump vowed that he was going to drain the swamp with a second crack at bat. He wasn't going to fail the second time. He was going to go and dismantle the deep state. They had to take him out before he won the election, and Butler was their chance. And by the grace of God, they barely missed. Agree, disagree? CC in Burlington. Thanks for holding, CC, and welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, CC.
I was listening to you and everyone I agree with. I believe in a lot of these assassination or attempt that they're using these young kids and they're the front. There's another shooter there. I think there's someone else shooting because I don't know. It just seems like when you were saying that, all of a sudden, I'm like, I think they're just fronts. Those, and then they bury them, nothing, and then they clean up everything fast. I've never heard of that. Usually, a crime scene is a little.
Oh, that's a great point. Cece, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that is, I promise I'll let you finish. That is a great point. I forgot to mention that. Within several hours of the assassination attempt, they cleaned up the roof. And you had people, in the FBI screaming and yelling, what are you guys doing? That's a crime scene. We haven't even properly investigated. Like, you're cleaning up evidence. What the hell is wrong with you? So you're completely right. And look, Cece, I don't want to go over old ground, but just look, he gets a ladder. He goes up the freaking roof. He's spotted by the crowd. He's got a gun. The crowd is telling the police, look, look, shooter on the roof, sniper on the roof. They're yelling, shouting, screaming. You then have police on radio saying, sniper on the roof, shooter on the roof, shooter on the roof. Nobody does anything? This is half an hour before the actual shots were fired? He's sitting there on the roof and nobody takes him out? Nobody even walks over and says, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? And then 8 shots. 8. I mean, I remember when you watch, go back if they still have it up on YouTube or wherever, and you're like watching this and you're saying, there's a lot of time. I mean, I know it's fast for you and me, but if you're Secret Service, if you're guarding the president, boom, 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 boom. That's a lot of shots. And then the security around Trump, I'm sorry, it was pathetic. They didn't know what they were doing. It was like the Keystone Cops. And then they surrounded him, but still leaving his head exposed. He's look, again, read Selena Zito's book. It is the best book, documentation on what happened on that fateful day. She was literally 10 feet back. She covered all of his rallies. She's an excellent journalist. She was literally 10 feet behind him. And she describes exactly what happened at that moment. And in particular, Cece, what she describes is how everything that day, she says it was a miracle. She goes, you don't understand. Everything about that day was unusual. The way he walked on the stage, the angle that he took, the graphs that were used, they were always used at the end, never at the beginning, always on the left, never on the right. She says, I even noticed it. I'm like, oh, geez, how come they've never done this before? Graphs about illegal immigration. They never put that at the beginning. It's usually at the end of the speech. No, it's always on his left. Why is it on his right? In other words, it was a perfect constellation of circumstances. So he was able to dodge the bullet from hitting his brain and then just piercing his earlobe. It was a millimeter. He had him. Thomas Crooks had him. He had him. He had him within his sights. It was about 200 yards, which was an absolute clean shot. And it was the hand of God. There's just no other explanation. And the tragedy is, and we forget about this, Corey Comparator died. He's shielded because of 8 shots fired. Because there were 8 shots that were allowed to be fired. So he hears bullets whizzing. So Corey protects his wife and daughter. He puts his body in front of his wife and child. And tragically, he gets killed. And by the way, 2 others are critically wounded. So someone died that day. I mean, thank the Lord it wasn't Trump, but still, an innocent family man, a patriot, a good, decent father and husband died protecting his family. It was a miracle. There's just no other way to put it. So anyway, Cece, please keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No. I think that Trump just should stay in the White House. He should be really careful. And I don't believe any of this that's been said. I think we might find out years to come, or we might never find out. But I don't think the young kids were the shooters. Someone else was there.
Cece, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Look, something stinks to high heaven. That there's no question. And look, this is the part I just can't wrap my mind around this. Like, look, I know it's hard to run a cabinet. I know it's hard to run the entire government. You can't be everywhere at once. All right. I mean, the guy's working, Trump is working 20 hours a day. I'm afraid he's going to get a heart attack. I'm telling you. He's working 120, 140 hours a week. He's going to kill himself. Okay. He's working himself to death. So, you can't be everywhere doing everybody's job. But I would call in Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and, you know, here's another report I got from you guys about, you know, the shooting in Butler, and then turn around and say, you see the year? You see this year? Yeah, that's the year that was shot. You see how close it is to my head? See how close it is to my brain? Okay, that could have been my brain splattered everywhere. I don't believe a freaking word that you guys are telling me. You've piled up the bull, you know what, the Bravo Sierra, the BS so high. I think I'm going to choke on this report. So why don't you start leveling with me? Who the hell are you protecting and why? Because if you don't give me answers and answers that satisfy me, then I'm telling you, you're both out on your rear end. Like, it's almost like the bureaucracy runs everything. Like, I'm sorry, but, you know, one of the reasons why he put Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is you're supposed to be my eyes and ears. Like, you're supposed to have my back. Instead, Kash Patel, he's got this country music girlfriend. I don't know if you've been seeing this. She's 18 years younger than the guy. He's always flying off every weekend to see her at a show, or they're doing things together. Dan Bongino, what this guy does, nobody knows. So I hate to say this, but it's like you've got two BSers, two BS artists at the FBI and deputy FBI. I swear, if I was Trump, I'm like, what do you guys do there all day? No, really. Like, I want an action report. Like, seriously. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, the mystery now grows. Bombshell, in fact, multiple bombshell reports in the today's New York Post. What really happened in Butler, Pennsylvania? And why is the FBI and Secret Service covering up who Thomas Crooks, the would-be assassin, truly was? Transgendered, a furry, I swear to you, a real sexual fetish for furries, and bizarre, super muscular female bodybuilders. Weird, I'm telling you, weird. And clearly a Trump hater. I mean, and not just a Trump hater, repeatedly called for Trump to be murdered, to be assassinated, for his supporters to be slaughtered and to be assassinated. And none of this has been revealed by the FBI or the Secret Service. It took hardcore, investigative, hard-hitting investigative reporting with whistleblowers within the deep state, the FBI and the Secret Service, for all of this to come out. Now, this is from Larry on Messenger. Jeff, I'm extremely disgusted that a majority of Democrat voters claim President Trump wasn't shot, that it was faked. So I guess Corey Comparator's death was a lie too, ? Well, that's how unhinged the left has become. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, we all saw it. We saw the blood. We saw what happened to Trump's ear. There were countless witnesses who were there live, including, by the way, a ton of media. And they all said, no, he was shot he was shot in the air. We saw him. The blood was everywhere. We saw him being rushed to the ambulance. The blood was spewing out of his ear. We were with him in the ambulance. We were with him in the hospital. The doctor said he was shot in the air. I mean, I don't know what else you want. But this is the level now of their Trump derangement syndrome. And let's be honest, one of the reasons why they're pushing this lie is, and I remember I went live. If you remember, for those of you that follow the Kuhner man, we went live after Butler here on the Kuhner Report. It was a Saturday. And I called up Sandy. I called up Mike. I said, we got to do a show. I don't care. Trump has been shot and almost assassinated. And so we went live on the air. And if you remember what I said, I'll never forget that day for the rest of my life. I said, you are now watching the next president of the United States. When he got up after with the blood dripping down his face and pumping his fists, because, we didn't know. Nobody knew. He didn't know. Is there a second shooter? Is there a third shooter? Is there a fourth shooter? Are they going to continue to shoot at him? So he literally was putting his life on the line. His head was completely exposed. Even, frankly, his upper body was exposed. And he puts his fist up in the air and he starts going, fight, fight, fight. When he showed that kind of courage, that kind of grit, that kind of determination, that kind of ferociousness, ferocity, I said, you are now looking at the next president of the United States. And really, from that point on, he was leading in the polls. He got a big lead, and he never lost it. Okay. So Sandy is telling me that there's something going on at the internet. Apparently, Twitter/X is down. Spotify is down. So something is going on. But a lot of these big sites are down. So it's not just us that's being affected. But anyway, so he won the election that day because the American people saw him and said, you know what? That tough SOB, that's the guy I want negotiating against Putin. That's the guy I want negotiating against Xi Jinping. That's the guy I want as my president in the White House. Because frankly, he's got balls. And he showed it that day. In fact, he's got, more than enough balls to do the job. Let me just read one more, and then I want to go to the phone lines. Okay, this is from 703. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470 70470, and this is a really interesting point. Jeff, how does CNN account for the fact that they didn't cover any rallies, but they go to the middle of nowhere? No insult to the people in Butler, but, it is out of the way. Go to the middle of nowhere to cover Butler, Pennsylvania. There's no question they knew about the plan, and they wanted everyone to see Trump's head explode on live TV. Look, what we saw under Trump's first term and under Biden's term in office is that CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, all of them were mouthpieces for the deep state. They were just outlets for the deep state. All of their sourcing was from the deep state. All of their lies were from the deep state. All of their false narratives were from the deep state. So I'm positive someone from the deep state, somebody they had relied on in the past for many years, said, go to Butler. Well, why? We haven't been covering him. We don't want to give him the airtime. We haven't covered him in months. Just go to Butler. Trust me. Something is going to happen. Okay? Click. And they're like, oh, okay. Get a camera crew out there in Butler. And they wanted to see his brains splattered all over the floor and have exclusive coverage. And that's why they were there. Because CNN has never explained this. You never covered his rallies for months beforehand. Literally. And all of a sudden, you show up in Butler on that fateful day? Could be a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences, but that's just me. Keith on the Cape. Keith on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Keith, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Keith?
I'm doing all right. You always have a wonderful show. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome, Keith. Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to present you with a log and see if you wanted to throw it on the fire.
Yes, go ahead.
So let's go back to this past summer. There was a meeting at the UN, and it wasn't just a meeting at the UN. It was a meeting with the President of the United States, and you have elevators that don't work, and it forces the President to take an escalator, and then the escalator doesn't work. That seems a little hinky, if you know what I mean.
Well, Keith, I promise I'm going to let you finish. It's not even that the elevators didn't work, you're right, and that the escalators didn't work, and you're right. Is that the Secret Service let Trump and Melania walk ahead of them, meaning they were completely exposed. They're wide open. Like literally wide open. Look, I don't even like to talk like this because this is the president of the United States. But I have to say it because I think your point is so dead on. I could have taken him out. And I'm a horrible shot. I'm serious. You know, you're 20 feet away on the second floor. He's completely exposed. Him and the first lady. You know, usually you got Secret Service all over you. So there's a body. There's two bodies. There's three bodies. It's like, where is he? Where is he? I can't see him. He's behind these bodies. You know, so, you know, I'm going to shoot somebody. You know, they're going to take a bullet. I can't hit him. He was wide open, Keith. Wide open. And I don't mean from several hundred yards. I'm talking, you're right. I urge everybody, look at the video. Just say, my God, on the second floor, right there's the balcony. And by the way, you had people lined up. Oh, it's the president. Oh, it's the president. They're all coming out. They were within 20 feet of the president of the United States. My Ashton, my 15-year-old son, I'm telling you, with a gun or whatever, boom, boom, he would have hit him. So again, I remember at the time when that story broke, and you're completely right, Keith, I was livid. My blood pressure went through the roof. I said, the Secret Service people have to be freaking fired. What are you guys, nuts? Even, first of all, you don't let the president, I'm sorry, I know he's the president. You go, no, Mr. President, no. I go in front of you. Hold on, Mr. President. You don't just walk up the escalator. Whoa. Until we put a ring of security around you and the First Lady, you don't go anywhere. Like, you handle the world, but we handle you. That's our job, with all due respect. So, come on. Have you forgotten Butler already and what they tried to do to you in Florida? Hey, we're not going to let that happen on our watch. So you got to get people in front of him, people beside him, people behind him. No, they just let him go up the escalator. I couldn't believe it. So I'm like, I remember I said, are you trying to get him killed? Is that what you're trying to do? Keith, forgive me, please. You are on a roll. This is a mother log. Keep going, my friend.
You just hit the nail on the head. I mean, that was the thing, and the fact that it just got glossed over. The left is like, oh, this is a good laughing point. The elevator stopped on the president, and he might have fallen. Well, he was just wide open, as you said, and an idiot could have taken the shot. And and then the fact that it was just again glossed over, they made it disappear. And I think that's another thing that needs to be looked at a little bit more.
Keith, I'm telling you, take it to the bank. You're not 1,000% correct. I'm telling you, you're 1,000,000% correct. Take it to the bank. There's a mole, or there are moles in plural within the Secret Service who are leaving the president deliberately exposed. I think there's no question. There's no question. There's absolutely no question. And look, Keith, just to piggyback off of what you're saying, and honestly, who am I compared to Trump? Okay, I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. I forget what it was. We had a rally, and, I can't quite remember, but I don't know if I got death threats but there was something that everybody was worried. The organizers were worried. My wife was worried. Everybody was worried. Everybody, even Lonnie Brennan from the Boston Broadside, they were all worried. And they said, no, Jeff, if you're going to speak, you have to have security. And so everybody said, we're going to pitch in, we're going to buy, we're going to pay, and we're going to get you security. You got me 2 security guards. Anyway, long story short, I'm like, okay, if you guys insist. I remember I'm going to the crowd. I always shake people's hands. I meet them, meet and greet as I'm on my way. And I can't tell you how many times the 2 security guards, and I don't say this in a bad way. They were very professional, excellent, but they manhandled me. They were like, whoa, Mr. Kuhner, whoa, like forcefully, hand on my chest, like, stop. Hey, they would look at me like, hey, you're too exposed. And I'm looking at them like, these are my wonderful listeners, my wonderful fans. Like, what's wrong with you guys? I just want to shake their hand. And they're like, no, there's a death threat on you. You got to be careful. Listen to us. We know what we're doing. So my point just being, Keith, I'm not talking the leader of the free world, the president of the United States of America, in which millions and millions of crazy moonbats want to kill him, who just, went through 2 assassination attempts, one missing his head by literally a millimeter. I'm talking Joe Blow Jeff Kuhner, WRKO, doing a rally in front of an overwhelmingly, favorable crowd, warm, hospitable, wonderful crowd. And because of a couple death threats, I couldn't move left. I couldn't move right. I couldn't go front. I couldn't go back. I mean, they controlled every single, who I could shake hands with, who I couldn't shake hands with. I mean, you should have seen this. So, Keith, I'm telling you, if they did that with me, you think they would have let me just go up an escalator? They would have tackled me. I'm telling you, they would have tackled me and said, what are you doing? Hey, no. I go front, he goes back, you wait for our instructions. You got it? So I know, just because I've had security, that security at the United Nations was pathetic. It was negligent. It should never have happened. And to this day, no one's been fired. No one's been suspended. Keith, nothing has happened. So I can only come to one conclusion. A, his Secret Service, his security has been infiltrated. And obviously the superiors at the Secret Service don't give a damn. Because he was a sitting duck. And they let him be a sitting duck. Keith, final word to you.
I think you really covered it well, Jeff, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Thank you very much for taking my call.
My pleasure, Keith. Please don't be a stranger. Call again. Really good call. I don't agree, disagree. I mean, am I overreading this? You tell me, please. Sal in Burlington. Thanks for holding, Sal, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Sal.
The text a little while ago was my first point about CNN. I thought that going around in the beginning was very fishy. And another thing, you could tell anybody with half a brain that it was an inside job. If there's an accident on the highway and there's a fatality, they cordon the area off, they tape it off, bring investigators in for the future court case or if someone's going to be charged. They were hosing that roof down within an hour, I think, of it happening. So anybody, I knew right away, this is inside. This is absolutely inside.
When I read that, Sal, I'll be brutally honest with you, like I'm in a confessional. I didn't believe it. I mean, of course it's true, but what I'm saying is when I initially, after, Butler and I was live on the air and then the reports coming out that they hosed down the roof. And I'm like, nah, that's because there's always false information after a shooting. Always. It's not that it's intentional. It's just people just get, certain facts wrong. So I was like, nah, no way. No, they got this wrong. But then, no, I'm like, no, this is what happened. No, this is what happened. No, this is what happened. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That's a crime scene of an attempted assassination of the President of the United States. The one thing you secure is the roof. You secure 2 things. You secure the roof and you secure the podium where the bullet hit Trump. I mean, you secure everything. Don't get me wrong, but the 2 things you secure above all. I mean, Sal, you tell me, the perch where the shooter shot from, and the rooftop that he crawled on, and apparently, allegedly evaded security. So that's where so much of the evidence is, and of course, the podium where he was speaking from. And no. They didn't secure any evidence. They just came in there with the high power hose, and that thing is gone. So the moment I heard that, I said, and no one got fired. You can't even say it's incompetence. Because if it was incompetence, okay, you're gone, you're fired. Nobody got fired. In fact, Sal, if you remember, how protective and defensive the head of the Secret Service was over the security and the performance of the Secret Service at Butler. How it was like they protected everything they did. They defended everything that they did. Like, how dare you call us incompetent? So when I saw that, I said, no question, inside job. It screams inside job. Sal, my question to you is this. Do you believe they fixed the problem? Or do you think the problem still exists? In other words, is there a hole in the president's security detail? Is there a Judas or Judases that are looking to get the president assassinated? What say you?
Absolutely, they have not fixed it. And Jeff, there was video of them hosing it down. That's when I'm watching it, and you got to find it. I remember there was video, and I'm watching it saying, what is going on? This is a crime scene. They tried to assassinate a president, and they're hosing it off. You could find the video. And, Jeff, the question of have they fixed the problem? Jeff, Obama had 8 years to basically fill the FBI and the CIA with left-wing people. And that's exactly what he did. And never mind what happened during COVID, where if people didn't get, you don't think that was, it was all part of it. People didn't get their vaccinations. Well, they must be conservative, so they're out. We'll purge the military too. It was all, it's unbelievable, but it goes all the way back to Obama.
That's a great point. I mean, that's a great point. Sal, I just want to piggyback off of something what you said. When you, and I urge everybody, please read Miranda Devine's column and read the other two. There's two also very good articles in the New York Post. They lay it all out. You see that it was COVID that really radicalized Thomas Crooks, because they go through his online presence almost blow by blow by blow. And initially, he's a Trump supporter. And now, again, very violent. So he's got a violent tendency right from the beginning. But initially, he likes Trump. He praises Trump. But then when COVID hits, he radically turns on Trump. I mean, he violently turns on Trump. And you can see it's COVID. I mean, he was already a little bit unhinged, but it was COVID that really set him off. It's like it led to a break, like a psychological or moral break. And that's when he starts going on about Trump's putting all our lives in danger. How dare, he's not implementing social distancing. Why isn't he banning people from being in groups? He's going to get us all killed. Oh my God, he needs to be killed. And then from that point, he's a racist. He's a white supremacist. His supporters are like a cult. He needs to be assassinated. He goes off the deep end into this murderous rage. And then he starts to fantasize. And you look at the cartoons that he starts to, they show a couple of cartoons. I don't even want to describe it on the air, because there are still, possibly kids in their cars as their parents drive them to school. It is so vile. I'm talking mass murder, mass killings, mutilations of bodies. And he loves it. The gore, the blood, the killing. So you look at this and you say, you could easily turn a guy like him. Easily. He loves guns. He likes to shoot guns. He hates Trump. It doesn't take much to just point him in the direction and say, take out the president. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let me ask you two questions. Okay, double-barreled question. Number one, what do you think best explains the FBI and, frankly, the Secret Service's failure in what happened on Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13, 2024? The attempted assassination, obviously, of Trump. Is it just sheer incompetence? Or B, it was part of a larger conspiracy. Because I have to tell you, to me, those are the only two possible conclusions, especially now after these bombshell reports in the New York Post about the massive cover-up about the assassin, the would-be assassin Thomas Crooks, and how much the FBI and the Secret Service have been lying to us. So, to me, there's really only, it's door one or door two. And I don't know which one's scary. Honestly, I don't know what's more frightening. One, that they're that incompetent and they're just covering up their incompetence and their tracks because they're that inept. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Or B, it's because there's a mole or moles in people who've infiltrated the FBI and the Secret Service, radical anti-Trump leftists who want the president dead. There's no door three on this. And honestly, I don't know what's worse. Now, that's question numero uno. The second question, and I want to credit Mark on Messenger because I think he makes a very good point. Should Dan Bongino, because remember, Bongino was in the Secret Service before we got into media, and now he's the deputy FBI director. And look, there's no question about it. Let's be charitable. He is floundering as deputy FBI director. Okay, let's put it, charitably, mildly. He's not doing very well. He's struggling. Should Dan Bongino have been assigned as the head of the Secret Service? Instead, in other words, he should never have been appointed as FBI director, but instead made head of the Secret Service, bring in people that he knows and he trusts, and clean out the Secret Service. In other words, that's more up his, that's more up his wheelhouse. He knows the Secret Service. He comes from the Secret Service. He has friends and connections in the Secret Service. And maybe that would have been a much better fit for him than making him the number two law enforcement official in the country. Because clearly he and Kash Patel, it's not working. So my question to you, should Trump reassign Dan Bongino and make him the head of the Secret Service? I'm just asking. 617-266-6868. Mo on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Mo, and welcome.
Hey, Kuhner, man. Last time I called you, we were discussing how fragile the grid was into New York when Mondani had been elected.
Mo. I remember that call. That was a very good call.
And I got cut off? Someone shut me off?
That was probably Mike.
Okay.
But don't take it personally, Mo. He cuts me off all the time. Mike, that's why I call him Maestro Mike. Mike thinks he's the show. I'm just being honest with you, Mike. Mike thinks he's the maestro. So please go ahead, Mo. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I was just relieved because I heard you talking how you thought people were cutting in and out on things, and I'm there. Somebody cut me off.
That was Mike. And again, really, Mo, he cuts me off, and he loves cutting me off. See, now Mike is getting mad. Now Mike is in my ear saying, tell Mo to get to the point or I will cut him off again. So, Mike, please, let's not upset Mike here. Mo, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, that was really the basic question because I heard you saying that you were having trouble with stuff cutting in and out. And I'm there. I wonder if someone else has had this happen, and I figured I'd call you. But you guys are doing a good job. And you're a lifeline, and I guarantee you the guys in the White House are listening to you.
Oh, I know they are. I'm being honest with you. I know they are. I'm not saying Trump does. I'm not saying the guy's, 6 to 10. He's listening to every second. But that's why I try to give callers as much leeway and time as possible. Because, how do I say this? You're the pulse of the country. Kuhner country is MAGA. You're the heartland. So I want them to hear what the base is saying. And so when the base is saying, as they did recently, I'm telling you, prices are too high. I love the guy, but the prices are just too high. And we want him focusing more on affordability and bringing prices down. Bingo, they got that to the president right away. Many of you are not happy about the H-1B visas. They're not happy about the Chinese students. He's getting that message. So that's one of the reasons why I fought for editorial independence on this show. It's not just for me. It's for you. And look, some people do say crazy things. That's just the way it is. But I'd rather that people say crazy things and we just say, no, we disagree. But you have the right to say it, because what you get is you get people saying brilliant things. So that's what free speech does. And that's why I'm totally against censorship. And that's the heart and soul of this show. And again, I'm going to give away my negotiating strategy. Everybody knows it. I don't ask for money. I ask for free speech. And it served me very well. And at every negotiation, it throws them off. I don't know why. Every time. I mean, I even telegraph it. They're like, but for these ratings, don't you want more money? Nope. I just want freedom of speech. So again, really, the heart and soul of this show is editorial independence. And that's not just for me. It's for you, the great callers and the great listeners of Kuhner Country. And to be frank, that's why we say things. You couldn't say it on Fox. You couldn't say it on Newsmax. You certainly couldn't say it on CNN or MSNBC or frankly in most other media outlets. And so again, really, I want to thank all of you. Now, just very, very quick. I want to go right back to the calls. They're jammed. Larry in Messenger. This is Larry on Messenger, who doesn't like option one. I said either, it's pure incompetence or it's a conspiracy. There's a mole or moles within the FBI and the Secret Service who clearly want to see the president, Trump, get assassinated. Larry doesn't like option one. He doesn't like door one, and here's why. Jeff, you cannot tell me it was simple incompetence that put twice as many agents on Jill Biden that very same day, in July 13, 2024, for an indoor event, and a bunch of female agents averaging a foot shorter than President Trump at an outdoor event. Now, again, Larry reminded me of this. It's true. I forgot. Jill Biden, the very same time at the time, the first lady, at the very same time, the very same day that Trump was in Butler, got twice as many Secret Service agents detailing her than Trump. And Trump had a disproportionate amount, and nothing against female agents, but they tend to be smaller and shorter, some of them much shorter. And so Larry's point is, Trump's a tall guy. He's like me. What is he, 6'3", 6'4"? Many of them were 5'3", 5'4". So you're talking about a whole foot difference. That leaves his entire head exposed. And so Larry's point is, that's not a coincidence. It was a setup. Agree, disagree. Jeff in Ohio. Thanks for holding, Jeff, and welcome.
Oh, good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my phone call.
My pleasure, Jeff.
And just to get right to your AB, it's definitely B. And I'll go ahead on just a couple quick points here. We'll just say I haven't trusted him since the pipe bomber. So it hadn't stopped since then. And we're going to find out how devious they are by today. They're supposed to release the Epstein files. I can't wait to see how they're going to stymie that. And that's going to be an indication, too, of just how the deep state are covering everything up. Now, as far as your post on X, you had a questionnaire yesterday about who was the biggest traitor, and I responded by saying, we got 3 new ones. It's Case, Dan, and Pam. And I pasted Tucker Carlson's video, and I hope you didn't mind posting somebody else on your website. But I posted a 34-minute documentary that Tucker Carlson had put out, and he's going to be the next Charlie Kirk. I hate to say it, but he's the canary, and we're going to find out shortly. So there's going to be more people who are going to get shot, unfortunately. But this is a topic that's close to the deep state's heart. They're not going to let go. They're definitely not going to let go. And Trump needs to clean house and get some people in there. He needs to bring some kind of generals. He says he loves his generals. He needs to bring the military in here and run it like it's being invaded. What say you, Jeffrey?
Well, Jeff, look, I've been saying this about the border now for I don't know how many years. We are being invaded. There's no question. This is an invasion. And I know you're talking about a deep state invasion. I understand what you're saying. But just in general, we're in a state of war. And it's a globalist war against the United States of America. The Mexican government is controlled by the drug cartels. This is a known fact in Mexico City. And they're controlled by globalist billionaires. And so they use Mexico as the back door to invade our country. And that's what Biden did. He allowed an invasion of 20 million illegals. And this was completely supported by the Democratic Party. It was completely supported by the CIA, by the NSA, by the FBI, by all of these deep state institutions and agencies, with the collusion of most establishment Democrats. There's no question. And so I think Trump has to understand we are in a state of war. The Democrats have declared war on him. The media has declared war on him. The deep state has declared war on him. And the globalists have declared war on him and by extension on the country. So every day matters. And in the end, look, he realized this in his first term. He's gotten better in his second term, but I still think he needs to improve. If I'm to criticize him, I would say this is my biggest criticism. Personnel is policy. Personnel is policy. You could be the greatest CEO in the world, and I think Trump is, frankly, the greatest CEO in the world. But if you don't have the right CFO, COO. In other words, if you don't have the right people in other positions, I don't care how good you are. No man is God. No man, even Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever have played the game, needed receivers, needed an offensive line, needed weapons. When he didn't have weapons, he couldn't win a Super Bowl. And he was the best of the best. So what I'm saying is, Trump needs to have the right people in the right positions. Now, Scott Bessent is brilliant at Treasury. I think J.D. Vance is turning into one of the greatest VPs, vice presidents we've ever had. I think Hegseth, contrary to my wife, is doing a phenomenal job as Secretary of War. I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing incredible at Health and Human Services. Rubio, I don't like him. He's a neocon, but to give him his due, I think he's been very good, solid as Secretary of State. So I'm saying there are some outstanding picks. But his Achilles heel is exactly what you said. It's Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino. They're killing him. I'm telling you, they're killing him. And Pam Bondi in particular, this woman, what this woman does all day, I don't know. But that's the Justice Department. You've got, and that's the thing about Trump. I don't know what it is. He picked Jeff Sessions. It was a bomb. He picked Barr, Porterhouse Steak Bar. Bill Barr. It was a bomb. He picked Pam Bondi. It's been a bomb. I don't know what it is about the DOJ. I don't know what it is. But he's got to get somebody with the cojones, the stomach, the guts, the backbone. Because that's where you really fight the deep state. It's through your attorney general and through the FBI. And look, Kash Patel, let him go write books. Dan Bongino, let him BS and, bullcrap, do his little BS routine on podcasts or whatever. Pam Bondi, send her off to Fox News and be a legal analyst. And I've said this before. If you want, give it another month. Nothing is going to change. Come New Year, it's time for new leadership at the DOJ and at the FBI. Because you're right, Jeff. If he doesn't clean house there, he's not going to get anybody. And let me tell you the dirty secret in Washington. They're just waiting Donald Trump out. The Republicans are waiting Trump out. John Thune is waiting him out. Lindsey Graham is waiting him out. Mike Johnson is waiting him out. 90% of the Republicans on Capitol Hill, they're like, let's just wait him out and we'll put this genie back in the bottle again. And get rid of MAGA. Now, this is the big political news. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it goes to your point, Jeff. The globalists are already laying the groundwork to decapitate MAGA and prevent Trump from passing on MAGA to his successor, which is J.D. Vance. Vance now, very popular with the base. Everybody sees he's the heir apparent. Okay? He is the heartland. He breathes, eats, sleeps America first. Powerful globalist Republican billionaires are pouring money now into a Ted Cruz presidential campaign. They are laying the groundwork for Ted Cruz to run in 2028 in order to defeat J.D. Vance and sabotage Trump's MAGA agenda. And they're starting 3 years. And they're working with the media to constantly attack and undermine J.D. And if you want to know why, they are viciously going after Tucker Carlson now and calling him every name in the book. It's because they want to get to Tucker to get to JD. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are jammed. Again, I don't want to get too derailed, but just this is very important. The knives are out for J.D. Vance, and the reason is obvious. He is the clear America First MAGA heir apparent. And Trump knows that. The people around Trump know that. You get Trump now for another 3 years, really 3 years and a quarter, and then think 8 years under J.D. Vance. The deep state is going to collapse. They can't survive that long. They know it. The Democrats are going to get destroyed. The rhinos are going to get wiped out. So it will transform the Republican Party truly into an America First MAGA Trump style party. That's why they don't want JD to win and get the nomination. And so they're laying the groundwork, not just for Ted Cruz now to challenge him in 2028. And by the way, Cruz is going to run as a Bush style Republican. He's going to run for endless wars. He's going to run on free trade. He's going to run on more immigration coming into the United States. So it's going to be George W. Bush 2.0. So it's the Bush wing, the globalist wing, wants to take back the Republican Party, and they're going to use Ted Cruz as basically their stalking horse. So Ted Cruz is going to run, take it to the bank. And what you're seeing now is a media campaign, deliberate, to destroy J.D. Vance. Now, he's loyal to his wife. They can't get him on philandering. He's got barely any, if any, skeletons in his closet, none. And he's been very loyal to Trump, extremely competent, very effective. So, collateral damage. They're going after his friend, Tucker Carlson. They're friends. They've been friends for a long time. This goes back many, many years. And so what you've seen now in the last 2 to 3 weeks is a concerted media campaign to portray Tucker as the second coming of Adolf Hitler, as a virulent Jew-hating anti-Semite, as someone who needs to be purged from the conservative movement, from MAGA, from the Republican Party. And by the way, leading the charge is Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, both of whom were diehard, never and anti-Trumpers, until now that it's politically convenient. And so if you're saying, why all this vitriol against Tucker? Why all of a sudden now are they so determined to destroy Tucker? It's not Tucker. Even Tucker has said this. He goes, they're not really after me. They're after JD. So they're trying to destroy JD by destroying Tucker Carlson, and then it's guilt by association. And you're already seeing it now in social media, the media itself, constantly asking now J.D. Vance to disown Tucker Carlson. and especially over the decision to have Nick Fuentes, who is, by the way, a disgusting rabid anti-Semite and a kind of I wouldn't say Holocaust denier, but a Holocaust minimizer and an admirer of Hitler and Stalin, if you can imagine. So he's a provocateur. He's an unhinged, malignant, narcissistic provocateur. That's what this guy is. Tucker had him on his podcast. I think it was a mistake. He should not have had him on. That's his business. I don't think it was a good move. It opened him up to attacks, and now he's getting attacked. But you've got now JD being asked again and again, will you disown Tucker Carlson? Do you think he should be kicked out of the Republican Party? Should he be kicked out of MAGA? Will you have nothing to do with him? And JD Vance's answer is the answer I would give. Look, I disagree with him. I disagree with his decision to have put Nick Fuentes on. But I'm not going to disown a friend over politics. We're friends and we go back 10, 15, 20 years. He's my friend. I don't abandon my friends. I'm loyal to my friends because friendship is above ideology and friendship is above politics. So the fact now that JD has disagreed with Tucker but refuses to disown Tucker, now they're saying JD by extension, here it comes, he's an anti-Semite and he's a closet Jew hater. So, and they have no evidence for this. In fact, JD is affectionate towards Israel. He's sympathetic towards Israel. He loves the Jewish people, always has, but it doesn't matter. They want to destroy JD by destroying Tucker Carlson. And this is all about control of MAGA and control of the Republican Party. And they know that if JD wins in 2028, it's good night, Irene. It is truly Trump's party. And they can't put that genie back in the bottle. So you're already seeing it. You got newspaper after newspaper after newspaper, even on the so-called right. And I'm putting this in air quotes. They are hammering J.D. Vance. It is nonstop. The Wall Street Journal editorial page, which is the mouthpiece for sort of establishment globalist republicanism, neoconservatism, the old guard, they were big George W. Bush supporters. Every second day, they have something against J.D. Vance. Always, they relentlessly attack him on everything because they know J.D. wins and the old guard is finished once and for all. 617-266-6868. Carol in Reading. Thanks for holding, Carol, and welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Carol.
Hi. First-time caller.
Welcome, Carol.
Thank you. I'm founding a new political party, and my first void in marriage is going to be 139 Washington Street in Reading, December 1st, 12 midnight. We're going to caravan east on Walker's Brook Drive, stop at the Shell station, top off our tanks, south on 95, Mass Pike 84, Hutchinson Parkway, Henry Hudson, into Midtown Manhattan to support our Christian in the city of New York. This is the last Christmas that they'll be lighting the Rockefeller Center tree, and probably the last Hanukkah. We are 210 miles from the city of New York. I used to have road rallies with myself. I went twice a year. It's 210 from Waltham to the city of New York, to Midtown Manhattan. My best time, an hour and 45 minutes, and this was before I even knew about nitrous oxide in the engines.
Well, Carol, look, let me just tell you this, and I understand you're very passionate, and I share your passion. I think Zoran Mamdani is a very dangerous man. He is an Islamo-communist. I think he's going to bring New York City to its knees. But I'm going to be brutally honest with you. They are going to be lighting Christmas trees. They are going to be celebrating Hanukkah. already, he hasn't even been sworn in yet. Already his poll numbers are underwater because of the stupid stuff that he's saying and the people around him. You give this guy 4 years in power, and I'm telling you, New York is going to be begging for a conservative resurgence. He's not going to last. He's a disaster. He's going to be bad for everybody in New York. And I'm telling you, this guy for Republicans is going to be the gift that keeps on giving. Because Trump is going to run against him in the midterms, and I'm telling you, that's why the Republicans are going to win. Mamdani is now the poster child of the Democrats, and he's dragging others with him. And the more extreme they go, this is becoming increasingly an 80-20 country. We're the 80, they're the 20. They can't win. So what I'm saying, Carol, is yes, it's disgusting. Yes, it's heartbreaking. Yes, it's disconcerting. But politically, they have no future. What they did by electing Mamdani, the Democrats have committed political suicide. And you're going to watch. You watch. By next November, you are going to see, once they lose the midterm elections, and everybody's talking about JD as the next president of the United States, the Democrats are going to realize they made the biggest mistake in their entire history. And by the way, just so that you know, they're all devouring their own. Yes, there's a civil war within MAGA. I talked about this yesterday between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump, and I don't like it because I want us to be united against the radical left. But it is peanuts. It is small potatoes compared to what you're seeing among the Democrats and on the left. They just got a Mamdani-style Marxist to challenge Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries is in big trouble. Chuck Schumer now is going to face a primary from AOC. It's now leader after leader after leader. They're eating their own. And they're tearing their party apart. So, Carol, look, I understand you're distressed. You're angry. You're anxious. You're upset. I am too. But believe me, Mamdani is a loser. And 4 years of him, and you will see New York roar back like it's never roared back before. Conservative New York, like under Giuliani, will be a conservative city again once they're done with this clown. And that's going to happen to city after city after city, because what he's promising and what he's going to do is sheer destruction. And you can't build on destruction. Carol, thank you so much for that call. I truly appreciate it. Dave in Dunstable. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for taking the call.
My pleasure, Dave.
Jeff, as far as the FBI, the Secret Service, all of them, the CIA, ATF, they're all corrupt, Jeff. I don't think it's incompetence. I think they're doing what they want to do. I think they tried to assassinate Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. I don't believe that kid was just used as a scapegoat. That kid probably did kill the dad that was trying to protect his daughter. That's just using common sense. And as far as Charlie Kirk goes, this is factual. I have a very good understanding of firearms. That a 30-06 would have, not to be disgusting, would have blown right through Charlie Kirk's neck. No spine could stop the round. The round was invented in 1906 and it was used in the military from 1906 till the late 70s. I mean, it was used in all the wars. It's a super powerful round. It doesn't get stopped. It goes through trees, Jeff. It's very powerful. It's a 30 caliber round. That's just a fact. There's nothing.
Oh no, you're dead on. No, you're absolutely right. No, Dave, look, it's a very powerful gun. There's no question, and it did a lot of damage to Charlie Kirk's neck. I mean, you can see that. He was pretty much. Look, it's a gruesome topic, but he was pretty much dead. I know technically he was still alive. I know they put him in the ambulance. Blood was gushing out of his neck. He technically still had a heartbeat. They rushed him to the hospital, and about an hour, maybe 90 minutes later, he was pronounced dead. But for the most part, I mean, that's when you see the shooting, and I wish I hadn't, but I did, because you can never unsee it. He looks dead. I mean, the way his head just shot back and where the bullet hit him in the neck, that was a kill shot. There's no question that was a kill shot. No, look, Dave, the thing about the deep state, and that's why it survived so long, to give the devil its due, they're very smart. They're very crafty. In a way, they're like the mob. And the key to their success is they never get their own hands dirty. Because if you get your own hands dirty, then you can trace everything back to you. What they've always done is they've used patsies. They've used, generally, take Lee Harvey Oswald, just as a classic example. Clearly mentally unhinged. There's no question. Mentally ill, a communist, with serious ties to Castro's Cuba, in fact, trained in Castro's Cuba for a while. These are the kinds of people you can shape, control, and mold to do your bidding. Because the key to their success is always plausible deniability. Remember, that's very important. If you don't have plausible deniability, you're done. And that's the game in Washington. By the way, that's how all the leaks work. It's always plausible deniability. You don't leak. You get your staffer to leak. You get an aide to leak. You get someone, there's a distance between you and the leak. So if need be, if it ever comes back to the actual source of the leak, which is your staffer, I had no idea. I don't know how did she do this? How did he do this? You always have to have plausible deniability. That was the key to Obama. That was the key to Bill Clinton. That was the key to Hillary Clinton. Frankly, that was the key to Joe Biden. Notice, Joe Biden never got his hands dirty, ever. It was always through Hunter, primarily through Hunter, or Frankie, his brother, or Jimmy, or his daughter, or whoever. It's never him. And that's, frankly, most politicians. That Nancy Pelosi, how did she do her insider trading? She didn't sell stocks. No, her husband did. Her son did. Her daughter did. But her, never. She never sold one stock. Never bought one stock. So, always plausible deniability. Now, you connect the dots, it's pretty obvious who's masterminding the whole thing. But that's the key to the deep state. So if you notice, there's always a pattern. You take someone who's mentally unstable, usually with a very disturbing sex life. There's all kinds of sexual issues, perversions, and a lot of inner hatred and even self-loathing. And you direct it outwards and let them focus on a target. And then you convince them you'll be a hero or a martyr. You want your life to mean something? Yeah. You want to go down in the history books? Yeah. See, the thing that got Thomas Crooks, I don't want to go too long about this, but he was like, well, Lee Harvey Oswald is immortal. Everybody knows his name. Why? Because he's the guy everybody says shot Kennedy. And that's what he kept saying on his social media posts. I want to be immortal like him. I want to be famous like him. So you have to be willing to kill, assassinate someone. And that person is going to be Donald Trump. Now, what Miranda Devine's point is, and I think she's 1,000% correct, is if you look at the volume of the messages on all of these social media platforms, over a dozen, and how often he keeps saying, I'm going to murder Trump. I'm going to assassinate Trump. I'm a terrorist. I'm going to bring the government down. I'm going to massacre his supporters. We need mass violence. I'm going to kill Trump. I'm going to murder Trump over and over and over and over and over again. And then he just disappears. For a couple of years, he goes black. Black. He is no longer on YouTube. He's no longer on any of these websites, none of them. He fell off the face of the earth. And then he reappears in Butler, out of the blue. And so her point is, no, it's impossible. In fact, her Secret Service sources are saying, I'm telling you, it's impossible. Somebody had to have visited him. You threatened to kill the president that graphically, that explicitly, that often. Because remember, he was being red flagged. You had people complaining, saying, hey, he's just threatening to kill the president. Hey, this guy's nuts. He's going to murder Trump. Hey, he's going to go out there and commit acts of terrorism. Look what he just said. Look what he's bragging about. Here's him with a gun saying Trump is next. Trump is next. So the Secret Service are saying there's no question he was either being investigated online or somebody literally knocked on the door and spoke to him. But there's nothing in their files. So what happened? What happened? And normally the Secret Service will flag somebody down and then hand the investigation over to the FBI. Well, there's no record of the FBI having done anything. The only record we have is that Christopher Wray and his deputy both lied under oath. They lied about Thomas Crooks not being anti-Trump. He was very anti-Trump. They lied saying he was never online. That's a lie. He was always online. They lied that they didn't know what his motivation was. That's a lie. They lied about the fact whether he was transgender. They lied. They lied about the fact that he was a furry and involved in that violent furry subculture. So they lied about everything under oath. And never mind the fact that they then lied to Congress, and Congress wrote a report where they lied again. So Miranda Devine says, look, there's only one conclusion. The FBI and the Secret Service is covering all this up. And the question now is, what are they covering up? And to add, insult to injury, the president himself is saying, I don't believe the official story. I don't believe it. Because none of this adds up. And he's now frustrated with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. He's like, give me answers. They're not giving him answers. And then you have the most powerful senators, Republican senators, openly subpoenaing. They want the security cameras, the camera security, the footage. They're not giving it to. Kash Patel is refusing to hand it over. Why? The forensics report. Why? Witnesses. Why? Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, one of the biggest Trump supporters in the Senate, saying, I get it from Chris Wray because he was implicated in this. But why would Kash Patel be covering this up? So there's something the FBI doesn't want Trump to know, Congress to know, or the American people to know. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. So if you want to call in, now is the time to do it. Just super quick, because I want to go to the phone lines. The vote will be happening very soon on releasing all of the Epstein files. In fact, now there are speeches being made outside of the Capitol by, it's an army of Epstein survivors. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And they're saying it's a long time coming. They've been waiting for this moment now for a very, very long time. They are hoping that it's going to be a unanimous vote in Congress. We shall see. But all indications are it's going to pass with an overwhelming majority. And now the question is, will Pam Bondi make any redactions? Trump yesterday, I can play you the cut. I don't want to waste your time. Trump said once it passes the House, it goes to the Senate. The Senate should vote to pass it as well. And he says he will happily sign it. So this will compel the Department of Justice to release literally every Epstein file on the books, everything they have. And the question now is, will there be any redactions? The only redactions that there should be are the names of the victims to protect their dignity and their privacy. But outside of the victims, there should not be a single other redaction of anybody who was a perpetrator, who was who was complicit, who was on these Epstein Islands when they engaged in these horrific sexual acts. That should all remain unredacted. And so this is now the question. Will there be any redactions? Now, I'm telling you that if Pam Bondi allows even a single redaction, I am going to lead the charge to demand that she resign on the spot. No person should be protected. There should be no cover-up whatsoever of any single individual. And I don't care if she argues, well, that person was just there on the island but didn't do anything wrong. That person just happened to be with Epstein on this flight when, victim X was being victimized in a cabin or something. No. I want everybody's names who went to Epstein Island to be made public. And if they did nothing wrong, they can defend themselves. But I want no name to be blacked out or redacted. We want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And my prediction is if they actually release all of the Epstein files, and there's no redactions, you are going to see some of the most powerful people in the country and in the world fall. They are going down. And the overwhelming majority of them are going to be Democrats. As I said yesterday on X, and I want to repeat this, Trump has now set a trap. This is a trap. And the Democrats have now walked right into it. Because they're the ones now who've been leading the charge along with the media. This massive, intense pressure. Release the files, release the files, release the files, release the files. Well, now the files are going to be released. And you're going to see Bill Clinton. You're going to see Bill Gates. You're going to see Reid Hoffman, who is a major Democrat billionaire donor. In fact, really one of the key donors of the Clintons. And frankly, of the Obamas and the Bidens. Hoffman was there at least a dozen times. Bill Clinton over 24 times. Bill Gates over a dozen times. You are going to see some of the most powerful globalists and some of the major leaders of the Democratic Party. They are going down. And Trump is now detonating a neutron bomb that I believe is going to wipe out most of the establishment. And the deep state, since we're talking about the deep state, this is how the deep state has been trying to compromise people for years through people like Jeffrey Epstein. And so it is going to come out that the CIA was using him as an agent. I think there's no question that MI6 probably was using him as an agent as well, and maybe even Mossad, and God knows what other international spy agency. So this isn't just going to bring down major donors and major Democrats. The American people are going to find out what our deep state, what our CIA was up to, and the kind of grotesque, disgusting, abominable crimes, unspeakable crimes they were willing to tolerate and allow in order to get compromising information on political opponents or on world leaders. So this potentially now could be a massive watershed in Trump's attempts to drain the swamp. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, so I want to ask you two questions. What do you make of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania? Do you believe the FBI and the Secret Service are engaged in a massive cover-up? And the Epstein files. Do you believe we will actually see the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Or do you think there will be some redactions? And will it take the Democratic establishment and their major donors down? 617-266-6868. All of your calls. Don't touch that dial. 617-266-6868 is the number. Lines are loaded. Carol in Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carol, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Carol, it's great to hear from you. It's been a while since you've called.
Yes, it has. I've tried, but, you're a busy person. Thank God for July. I caught up with you.
Carol, what's on your mind?
I wanted to go back. I was going to mention Larry's point. Larry's a good thinker himself about the reassignment of the, Secret Service. But I think that this goes way back to after Nixon, when Lyndon B. Johnson took over. He was an avid hater of, Kennedy himself here. He was deep state himself. He was an awful, horrible human being. I think he started the implantation of communists and Marxists in our Secret Service, in our deep state, stuff like that. I think it's worked through the generations of the Democrat presidents, excluding Kennedy because he was assassinated because he didn't play, along with everything. And I just feel it's gotten worse. The globalists, including George Soros, starting it, probably the Reed guy, probably Larry Flint there, all of them here, the World Economic Forum. I think they all play on the same sandbox there. And they have been planning this for many years and just making it more Marxist and Marxist till people like Mamdani could run and be a little more open. And now they're blatantly out there.
Well, I think, Carol, you summed it up very, very well. And, look, I'm convinced the CIA had John F. Kennedy killed. I think the evidence is overwhelming. That's just me. And that was 1963. I know you know this, but I'm just saying, think about it, just objectively. That was over 60 years ago. The deep state has gotten much bigger, much more powerful, much more wealthy, much more entrenched than they were 60 years ago. And if they were able to take out a sitting U.S. president, imagine what they can do now. And look, if we're to be honest with one another, they had Trump and Butler. They had him 6 ways to Sunday. They had him. He was exposed. He was wide open. The shooter, let's just say you buy the narrative. The shooter, Thomas Crooks, was 200 yards away on a roof, straight line of shot. You couldn't have a clearer line of shot. He had an AR-15 style weapon. That bullet was going straight for his head. The trajectory, it was there. He was going to blow his brains out. And then at the last possible, not even second, but millisecond, Trump did something that he's never done before. He turned to his right to look at a graph about illegal immigration. And it was only because he turned at the last possible millisecond that bullet missed his brain, missed his head, and instead pierced his earlobe. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a second JFK. And they would have taken him out. And it would have changed the destiny of the United States. Now, for something so momentous, and by the way, I'm just being, not that I wish civil war, not that I want to see this country tear itself apart, but once you kill someone like Trump, the standard bearer, not just of a party, but of a movement. Selena Zito, in her brilliant book, talks about this. We may have averted a civil war. At a minimum, the country would have gone berserk. This is what the left is playing with. So this would have maybe destroyed our country. God forbid. So, and 16 months later, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but 16 months later, and we need the New York Post and Miranda Devine and some of these crackerjack investigative reporters with some whistleblowers to tell us that he was, that Thomas Crooks was transgendered, that he kept using they and them pronouns, that he was a furry and involved in this crazy furry subculture, that in fact he kept going on online about how he hated Trump and wanted to kill Trump and become this martyr and this, assassin like Lee Harvey Oswald. So our own FBI didn't tell us this. This is the most basic information. So they're covering up his motivations, his identity, the reasons for why he shot Trump. I mean, everything. They're deliberately, systematically covering it up. Now they won't even let us look at the security footage. Now they won't even let members of Congress look at witnesses and witness testimony and the forensic evidence. So they're deliberately this is Trump. This is him talking about his own FBI and his own Secret Service. He goes, this is his words. They're stonewalling. He goes, I don't understand. Why are you stonewalling? You're not giving me answers about that day, about the shooter, about the breakdown in security. And, I'm getting now literally deluged, flooded with texts where people are saying, Jeff, it was even worse than what you said. It's not just that Jill Biden had doubled the agents. They literally put agents assigned to President Trump. Yes, many of them were female who were a full foot shorter, but many of them were trained for 2 hours. They were agents from other departments who had no Secret Service training whatsoever. It's a 2-hour crash course. And many of these were DEI hires in other departments. And they said, okay, 2 hours. All right, you're ready. Go to Butler, protect Trump. So he was exposed. He was wide open. He had the most horrible security you could possibly imagine. The guy goes on a freaking roof. 13 minutes beforehand, the audience is saying, shooter, 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 shooter. And nobody does anything. And then he gets off 8 freaking shots. 8. And then look, don't take my word for it. Look how they protected him. I've never seen something so sloppy in my life. I couldn't believe it. And then they hold him up and then do some kind of a circle around him. But his head is completely like that massive head of his wide open. So if there's a second shooter or a third shooter or whatever, he's dead. I've never seen something like this. Outside of the head of the Secret Service at the time, who was clearly a DEI hire and who lied under oath to Congress and was so grossly incompetent in her testimony, even Democrats said, we got to fire her. This woman's a joke. Outside of her, no one else has been fired. No one else has been held accountable. How is this? I'm not talking about some dinky break-in or, whatever, some lapse in security in some federal building. I'm talking about a near assassination of a presidential candidate, former president, the eventual president of the United States, in which the media called for him to be killed, in which the Democrats called for him to be killed, in which people online were calling for him to be killed, who to this day call for him to be killed. And this guy, in over 736 messages, says, I'm going to kill him. On behalf of the resistance, I'm going to kill him. And the FBI, and at the time, the head and the deputy, Christopher Wray and his clown deputy, under oath lied and said, we don't know why he did it. Did he have anti-Trump motivations? Did he have anti-Trump ideology? Well, no. We don't know why. Was he ever online? No. He was never online. We don't know a thing. Of course, all he was online. So I'm talking about they're lying through their teeth. I'm not talking about a phrase here, a phrase there, a misunderstanding here, whatever. I'm talking about you cannot lie more blatantly than they lied. And 16 months later, we don't know. And it takes the New York Post to break this story wide open? The fix was in. It was a setup. And the problem is, it's not just to set the historical record straight, which is important. Carol, my concern is if they set him up once. Hell, they set him up twice. Remember it in Florida. They'll set him up again. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Carol, agree, disagree? Final word to you.
Yes, I do agree. But then Trump put in one of the Secret Service as the head of the Secret Service that day. Sean, whatever his name is.
No, you're right.
He shouldn't have done that.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. I thought he made it because he put his life on the line for Trump. I'm not defending what Trump did. I'm just saying I'm giving you his thinking. And he's like, well, this guy, hell, he was like right beside him. 617-266-6868. Okay, just super quick. As I was saying just before the break, I wouldn't have promoted anybody from that Secret Service detail that we saw in Butler, Pennsylvania that day. I'm with Carol, all the way on this. Again, I don't want to repeat myself. I think that's where maybe you appoint Dan Bongino. That's where I think his strength would be. Make him the head of the Secret Service. But I wouldn't pick anybody from that fateful day because I don't know who to trust and who not to trust. So I think there's a problem in terms of the culture at the Secret Service. And I think there's clearly a problem with the culture at the FBI. And frankly, it's not being cleaned up. It should be cleaned up, but it's not being cleaned up. Is it Elias? Elias in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Elias, and welcome.
Kuhner man.
Elias, how are you?
God bless you guys. I love Kuhner country, man.
Thank you. Thank you, Elias. Thank you. What's on your mind?
I got a quick take on the Furby thing. I think that you have Democrats and Republicans disguising themselves in those suits, doing bad things to children, and that way they can't be identified. I think that's why they're suppressing it and hiding it.
Ah, interesting. In other words, Elias, you're saying it's more prevalent than we think, and that maybe a lot of these political elites are involved in the same kind of behavior, and that's why they're deliberately trying to cover it up, because if we start demanding as a country to really do a full-blown investigation into this transgender/furry subculture, you're saying there's going to be a lot of members of Congress who like to dress up, as kittens or cats or dogs or whatever and play sexual games, correct?
Like Clinton in them dresses with that picture frame they have of him, but they just didn't get him in a Furby suit, that's all.
Well, that's an excellent point. I mean, that's one of the things about Epstein that's really shocking is that picture of Clinton in Monica Lewinsky's famous blue dress. So you've got Clinton wearing the blue dress with heels, earrings, the whole bit, and they do a portrait out of it. I mean, do you want to talk about sick? These people are sick. Elias, do you think we'll ever get to the bottom of what happened in Butler and finally know the truth? Or do you think they're going to bury this so deep no one will ever be able to find the truth?
No, the truth will come out, Kuhner man, in due time. And when it does, it'll just blow up on them.
From your lips to God's ears. Elias, very interesting call. Thank you so much for that call. I think he's onto something. I really do. Because there's a lot of perverts up on Capitol Hill. I'm telling you. So, no, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them are into this sort of stuff. Russ in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. As usual, a great show. I'm just
you.
going to make a comment. It's a little off topic, but you were talking about this before about Pam Bondi and
Yes.
Kash Patel.
Yes.
What I've read and what I know, a little from what I've read is that it's not really them. It's the gentleman named Todd Blanche, who's the Deputy Attorney General. Right, and he's a close friend. They grew up together, him and Donald Trump, President Trump. And from what I've read, he's the one that's blocking everything. Anything that that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel want to do, he blocks it. Now, whether or not President Trump knows about it, I don't know, but it's going to be a difficult situation if he does. Because now, who does he believe?
Well, Russ, I think you put your finger on it. Look, I would just say two things. Number one, that's why you need a strong attorney general, right? The deputy doesn't run the AG. the DOJ. The AG runs the DOJ. So Pam Bondi needs to say to Todd Blanche, if it's true, hey, buddy, you work for me. I don't work for you. But I think your second point is that's the killer point. Now Trump is going to find out how he was lied to. Remember, Kash Patel said there's no there. Dan Bongino said there's no there. Pam Bondi said there's no there. Todd Blanche said there's no there. In the Epstein files, they go, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Okay, now we're going to find out. We already know there's something there, but now we're going to find out how much of a something there's there. And I think Trump is going to realize they lied to me. And the question he's going to have to answer is, why did they lie to me? Russ, 30 seconds before I got to go. What's your theory? Why did they lie to him?
That's a good question, Jeff. I really don't know. But all I know is what I've read is this guy, Todd Blanche, has a lot of influence with Donald Trump. Because, like I said, they grew up together as friends. He was Trump's lawyer. I don't know what the gentleman's affiliation is, whether he's a Democrat or a rhino.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Who's paying him? Who's lining his pockets? Okay, Russ, superb point.